Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to be at Split Yard Creek Dam, just above Wivenhoe Dam, with my colleague, the Minister for Energy, Mick Brenni, and also Chris Evans, who's the Project Director for Pumped Hydro at Powerlink. It might not look like it, but behind me is a battery, a 28 trillion litre battery. Because during the day, when we're producing more renewable energy than we need, we pump water from Wivenhoe Dam up to this dam. And then at night, when the sun is down, and long after the sun is down, we can drive that water down the hill again, spinning those turbines and creating renewable power again for Queenslanders. So the future of Queensland is going to be built around renewable energy, including increasing storage. Storage is the key to unlocking Queensland's renewable energy future. It's why we committed funding in our budget last year to the site of another pumped hydro facility at Barumba Dam. And we're now going to be committing more funding in our budget this year. $48 million in additional funding to provide more pumped hydro storage for Queensland. That'll be $13 million to continue the program that we are delivering at Barumba, and then another $35 million to identify another site for a second pumped hydro facility in Queensland. There are very specific geotechnical requirements, as you can imagine, for pumped hydro. You need two dams very close to one another. Another project that we're supporting is the Genex Kidston pumped hydro project. Two old open-cut gold mines in the north of our state that we are supporting with a $147 million commitment to connect that project to the electricity grid in Queensland. We're also working on other storage devices, particularly batteries, around the state. We're trialling them at 5 sites around Queensland. We're looking at other battery storage, including the use of vanadium-based batteries. But the future of Queensland is looking very bright. The renewable energy future of Queensland is looking very bright. But we need to now work very hard to bring these projects forward. I'm so excited about this. This is such a positive investment in the future of storage of energy in Queensland and supporting pumped hydro, which will be one of those keys to deliver that renewable energy future. I might ask Mick Brenni to say a few words, and then Chris, Mick and I are happy to take some questions.
Well, thanks very much, Treasurer. There's no doubt that the energy system in this nation has come to significant prominence over the last few weeks. We've heard a lot about the first meeting of energy ministers under the new Australian government, chaired by Australia's new Energy Minister, Chris Bowen. And this meeting was very clear in its resolve that the way to deliver cheap, reliable power to Queenslanders and Australians, whether it's in a household or in a commercial setting, is to deliver more renewable energy and more storage. And today's announcement will deliver that. We also looked at what needed to occur to clean up the mess left by 9 years of a coalition Liberal National government that had no clear resolve in terms of Australia's energy future. But here we are today, the Palaszczuk Labor government, getting on with the job of delivering additional storage mega projects for Queensland's energy future. Today's $48 million announcement will see us advance the work that we have been already progressing at Barumba, a 1.5 gigawatt 24-hour pumped hydro storage facility just southwest of Gympie. A further funding commitment will see us identify a further 5 to 7 gigawatts of renewable energy storage across Queensland. These projects will go a long way to making sure that Australia can achieve energy independence. The soaring prices of wholesale electricity, particularly in New South Wales and Victoria, because 9 years of coalition government has meant that our prices for wholesale electricity are connected to the global market. With pumped storage here in Queensland, and more renewables into the system that we're delivering, we can achieve energy independence for this nation. We plan to tap into the best renewable resources in the world. That is Queensland's sunshine and our wind resources. By 2024, there will be 10 additional solar farms in the market and a further 5 wind farms in the market too. But as the Treasurer has said, to make sure that when there is an oversupply of those resources that we can store that in these mega batteries, our pumped hydroelectric storage schemes, and return to Australia's energy system when consumers need it the most. So today is a terrific step forward for Queensland and Australia's energy independence. It will help deliver cheaper, cleaner energy to Australian households and to Queensland manufacturers. Thank you very much. Any questions?
We'll look all over Queensland to work out the best place for those dams, but there's an enormous amount of work that needs to be done. The geotechnical work in particular, where you would position the dams, but this has been done around the world. It's been done in Queensland. This facility is very old here. It's about 40 years old, as I understand it, so it's been generating power for a long time. So we'll work very carefully to get that right.
You say it's an enormous amount of work. When practically would we see one of these built?
I'll let Minister Brenni address that.
So these are absolutely mega projects. If we're thinking about the 1.5 gigawatt 24-hour project just southwest of Gympie in southeast Queensland, looking at a construction phase and that will go for around 3 years, seeing it operational potentially by about 2028, 2029. These projects will provide secure jobs in that region for around 2,500 construction workers. That's a significant undertaking, and so when we look towards a 5 to 7 gigawatt project elsewhere in Queensland, these projects can take up to 5 to 7 years to deliver. But we're absolutely committed to advancing them as quickly as possible. The sooner these significant pumped hydroelectric schemes are in the marketplace, the more renewables that we can put into the system. That means more Queenslanders can add solar to their roof, and it means we can continue to see investment in large-scale renewables, things like solar farms and wind farms. We've already seen $11 billion of investment in those projects in Queensland since the Palaszczuk government took office in 2015, supporting nearly 8,000 jobs. So we'll continue to deliver job-creating mega projects to ensure Australia's energy independence.
How reliable is pumped hydro?
Well, pumped hydro is incredibly reliable. You know, cynics say that sometimes the sun doesn't shine and sometimes it doesn't rain, but as a civilisation we do pretty well at storing water, and so we know that with the supply of renewable energy that we have and the great resources that we have in terms of things like the Great Dividing Range, our coastal hinterlands, that we have all of the geographical benefits that come from being a huge state like Queensland. We're very confident that our pumped hydroelectric schemes like this one here at Wivenhoe will play a significant role in our energy security. Yes, absolutely, and of course you want to create your energy at as close to its demand as possible. So we're looking at sites right across Queensland, and we'll narrow those down to making sure that we can find that 5 to 7 gigawatts. We're very excited about this announcement today because, of course, it is a significant job creator. It's a significant economic development opportunity for regional Queensland too.
Is there any way of saying at this stage how much the project might cost in the end from construction?
So the announcement that the Treasurer has made today about the further funding to these projects will help us to define the final costs of the Barumba project. So it's important to understand what it's going to take, the scale of the upper reservoir, the geotechnical studies. That will enable us in that design and cost analysis to be able to put a price on these investments. But they are incredibly important. Without investment in this storage, the Treasurer has said storage is the key to our energy future.
Can I just ask, when Barumba's online, do you get any idea of what influence on price prices that might make?
Look, it's a really good question about prices. Australians and Queenslanders are feeling the pinch of a cost of living crisis. We've seen interest rates go up. We're seeing the cost of fuel go up because of poor policy settings from 9 years of a coalition government that's been hopelessly divided on energy. We know that renewable energy is absolutely the cheapest form of electricity generation. Right now, wholesale electricity prices in Queensland are at zero, and that's because of our sunshine and the wind that we've got here. And so if we can store that and return it into the grid at peak times, like when people come home from work in the evening between 5 and 7 p.m, when most of our electricity demand occurs, that will see pumped hydroelectric delivering lower prices for Queensland households.
Is there any context to, the storage capacity of these batteries, i.e., you say 5 to 7 gigawatts, but I mean, what is that in sort of general terms, like can that power Brisbane, or what is that?
So a 1.5 gigawatt project would have the power to support about 700,000 homes. To put 5 to 7 gigawatts into context, right now our total demand across Queensland is around 7 gigawatts. So if we can store that in one of those mega projects, that means that we can power the entire state from hydroelectric, making sure that we can continue to put downward pressure on cost of living for all Queenslanders.
Is that a 10 to 15 type of year goal or a 20 type of year, 20-year type goal?
Well, the Palaszczuk government's been very clear that we have a 50% renewable energy target by 2032. These pumped hydroelectric schemes will help us deliver that, and the design and cost analysis will give us some guidance around the delivery of these projects. But these are mega projects. There are thousands of workers involved, and we've got to make sure we work through the appropriate geotechnical studies, the cultural heritage studies, making sure that these projects leave a lasting and positive legacy on the communities in which we build them.
Well, it's 2030, wasn't it? The goal was originally 2030.
2030, that's right.
You said 2030.
Oh, sorry, I meant 2030. There's another big thing happening in 2032, but 2030 is our renewable energy target.
It's a big ticket.
Yes.
So you're going to have one, possibly two online by then. Sure, hydrogen does contribute to the renewable energy, but are you confident you can get to that by 30? You're both nodding, but how can you be confident?
The Premier commissioned myself and my colleagues to design an energy plan, the Queensland Energy Plan, to outline our pathway to 50% renewable energy by 2030. That plan will be delivered later this year. Pumped hydroelectricity, battery storage and more wind and solar energy, and of course the new green hydrogen industry in Queensland will be important features of that plan, and we're very confident that we'll be able to achieve our targets.
How many gigawatts is Barumba?
Barumba are expecting to be 1.5 gigawatts. That'll be determined by the final design and cost analysis, which today's funding will help us advance. Between 5 and 7 gigawatts of further storage will be required, whether that's through one pumped hydroelectric scheme or several will be identified through the additional funding that Treasurer has announced today.
Sorry, just to be clear, so and then Queensland uses about 7 gigawatts per day.
Today we're using that. Peak demand can be significantly more than that from our total statewide system. So on average we use about 10.5 gigawatts a day, but of course it goes up and down depending on the weather. On a day like today, when everyone wants to put their heater on, which is entirely understandable, then demand can go higher. On days like today, when the sun's shining, supply from rooftop solar is significant as well, and so we'll make sure that we cover all of our bases with projects like this.
So this third would deliver 5 to 7?
Well, it could be 1, 2 or 3, yes, all up.
And both to be built by 2030?
So we're hopeful that we'll be able to get Barumba into the system by the end of the decade, and our further analysis that is enabled by the funding announcement today, we'll try and build that as quickly as possible. But as I said, these are mega projects, they are serious undertakings, and 5 to 7 gigawatts of further pumped hydroelectric storage would represent projects that are of international significance. If it was one project, it would be potentially the largest in the world. So we'll be considering the timelines and the program for the delivery of those very, very carefully. But what we've seen today is that the Treasurer has put money on the table to make sure that these projects can come to fruition as quickly as possible.
Where is Barumba?
Barumba is just southwest of Gympie.
How many gigawatts is this thing? This is tiny, right?
This is tiny. Chris, do you want to?
500 megawatts.
500 megawatts, isn't it?
So
Half a gigawatt.
Barumba's 6 to 8 times the size of this. It can generate up to 20. It will generate for up to 24 hours in one day. Water up, water down. That's it.
Yeah.
You must have a fairly good idea where the other sites might be because you've got to spend a fair bit of money. Can you give any indication where they might be or in the regions?
So there's been a number of studies already, and we've looked at 14 potential sites across Queensland, and so we'll be looking at places where there is obviously a water source and you need some elevation, and so there are a lot of places right up and down the Queensland coast that match those parameters, and so now it's about narrowing it down to identify the one that meets the sort of scope that we require. It's got to be commercial. It's got to have the water source, and of course we need to consider impact on local communities. So we'll consider all of those things, and the funds today announced will enable that analysis to occur.
Very good.
Anything else? You're all good? Good. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, we'll Okay, very good. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
That's
you.
great. Thanks for coming up.
Thank you, Treasurer.
Could I get a photo with Darryl?
Yeah, sure.
Just standing, it's a good opportunity.
Yep. Yeah, yeah.